Hold on 1 second. All right. I'd like to say peace to everybody. I'd like to welcome you this evening to a brief subject I'm going to cover. Um, Let me know if you guys can hear me, please. Somebody type in the chat. Let me know if you can hear me good. Let me know if you can hear me. All right. Thanks a lot, Cephas. Peace, brother. All right. So I wanted to look at something right quick. Ain't going to take too long. Thanks, Ari. Um, I called this Will the Slaves Be Freed in 2019? I'm sorry for being late. Um, I was out and I left my iPhone. So now my wife is going to get my iPhone. So that's why I was late. I got home in time and I was trying to find my iPhone and I realized I left it. So that's why I'm running behind. So let's get right into this because what happens is, what's up, Johnny? Sister Mary? What happens is you have some people actually thinking that next year is going to be the year that we get free from America. As far as the slaves are concerned, 2019 is supposed to be the year that we are set free, and all this is over with, based on what some people assume. Now the prophecy actually took place in Genesis chapter 15, which we're going to look at. However, there are certain key things that are that we have to pay attention to know and verify that what Abraham was prophesied to about has already come and gone. And we are in captivity right now, but the 400 years that was prophesied to Abraham, that has something to do with our forefathers and not us. So when you look at us, the Hebrews, we did well. Some of us, as far as the Israelites are concerned, some of us came to America during the time of the transatlantic slave trade. So some of us came here. However, you got to realize, you have to understand that it was also, Israelites that were in slavery, already scattered throughout the Mediterranean. Well, already scattered among the Egyptians and Assyrians and stuff like that before Jesus even came. So what about that captivity? So how do we get down to this time right here? We pick a date, or we look at a date, 1619, and we say that, well, this is the time. 400 years from 1619, this is actually the time. But we had other captivities that lasted longer, and we don't even take those into account. Now, when I first came into the word a while back, you had people even saying, because around 2008, 2009, when Lord woke me up to the word, and around 2011, you had people prophesying that 1611, based on the 1611 King James Version, would be the time that 2011 would be the 400-year prophecy of that time. So 1611 to 2011, that's 400 years. It was prophesied that we was going to get taken out, we was going to be freed then. That didn't happen. 2016 came around, because they were even saying 1616 was the actual date that it started. So 2016, we were supposed to have been set free. Like I was telling my brother-in-law today, that you had people calling into the radio station here in Atlanta, saying that, well, we're going to be set free in 2016 and making a big fuss about it. And the radio host said, well, next year, which was 2015, when he said this, 2016 was the next year he was talking about. He said, next year, in 2016, if y'all not free, If y'all still here, don't call back into the radio show no more. So ever since then, I haven't heard that argument no more, as far as at least from them. So now you have new people saying 2019. So the dates keep changing. And what Israel has to really be concerned about is, you got to pay attention to the signs, because when it comes to this particular captivity, God didn't give us a number. He didn't give us a particular date. So let's go look at Genesis chapter 15. We're just going to clear some things up. Shouldn't take that long. I'm going to try to watch old boy play tonight, Zion Williamson, from Duke. So I had to get home and go and get this in, because I don't want to interfere with Wednesday night Bible study either. So I wanted to go ahead and knock this out. And I do apologize because it did cut into my time. But like I say, it shouldn't take that long. When I set that phone down tonight, some said, do not sit that phone there. You're going to forget. And I set that phone there and I forgot. I told myself, I said, I ain't going to forget. I'll get it. And man, I forgot the doggone phone. Isn't that something? I just go to show you, boy, you get old, man. You can't trust your mind. The heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked and forgetful. So don't trust your mind. I'm going to tell you that now, boy. All right, so now, Genesis chapter 15, this is where the prophecy took place. The Lord talking to Abraham. Let's see here. Lord talking to Abraham. Genesis chapter 15, verse 13 is actually where it happens at. Genesis 15, verse 13, it says, and he said unto Abraham, know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. And also that nation whom they shall serve will I judge, and afterwards shall they come out with great substance, right? And thou shalt go to thy fathers in peace. Thou shalt go to thy fathers in peace. Thou shalt be buried in a good old age. But in the fourth generation they shall come hither again. Talking about Israel, Abraham's seed. They shall come hither again, for the iniquities of the Amorites is not yet full. So go to Deuteronomy chapter 7. Let's see something right quick. Deuteronomy chapter 7. And I want to show you something. Deuteronomy chapter 7, we're going to pick this up at verse 1. It says, when the Lord thy God shall bring thee into the land whither thou go to possess it, and have cast out many nations before thee, the Hittites, the Girgashites, the Amorites, and the Canaanites. Now remember, the Amorites play a very big role in this. Not just the Amorites, but the sons of Ham, period, because they're ruling at this time. But these Amorites happen to be a black people that are the sons of Ham, which is a black man. This is where you get your Africans from. All right, so this particular area, the Lord going to give to them. All right, and the Lord here in Deuteronomy chapter 7, by way of Moses, he's letting you know he's going to take down these nations. The Lord going to fight for them and bring these nations down. But who's included in that? The Amorites. But these sons of Ham, they all have a time to rule. And when their rulership is over, then that's when the Israelites going to be brought out of this first captivity. Because you got to make sure you pay attention to the key words that are stated in these particular verses. So he says that when the Lord thy God shall bring thee into the land whither thou go to possess and have cast out many nations before thee, the Hittites and the Girgashites and the Amorites and the Canaanites and the Perizzites and the Hivites and the Jebusites, 7 nations greater and mightier than thou. And when the Lord thy God shall deliver them before thee, thou shalt smite them and utterly destroy them. Thou shalt make no covenant with them, nor show mercy unto them. So at this point, the Lord is Moses is referring to what the Lord is getting ready to do, or he's making reference to when he takes down these nations, the Amorites included now, don't make no covenants with them, right? You know what I'm saying? Don't give your daughters to them. Don't give your sons to them. They're going to turn them away from serving me. But keep in mind, the Amorites are in this conversation, all right? So go back to Genesis 15. Genesis 15, let's pick this back up at verse 13. We're back at 16. He done already told them they was going to captivity for 400 years, right? So it says, but in the fourth generation, they shall come hither again, talking about the Israelites, or talking about Abraham's seeds. For the iniquity or the sin of the Amorites is not yet full. So once the iniquity of this people comes to a full, it's running over, with sin, then the Lord gonna bring them down. That wording is very important because it's gonna what's up, Dorsey? It's gonna give us almost the same type of wording when it comes to us and our captivity. Okay. All right. So now, if you pay attention to what it says, also in a few verses, it says in verse 14, it says, "And also that nation whom they shall serve will I judge, and afterwards shall they come out with great substance." Right. So now let's go look at Israel getting ready to be delivered from this captivity when the Lord set up Moses and Aaron to be his representative. Moses was mainly the leader in this particular case. Aaron is the one that spoke on behalf of Moses. But let's see what happens here. Let's see what happened in let's see how Israel came out of it. I think it's probably going to be Exodus 32. And you got to realize I just got home, so I kind of knew where the stuff is at in my head, so I didn't have a chance really putting it together because I done dealt with it before. So then I have like this eastward to kind of show me what I'm looking for. All right, Exodus chapter 12. That's where we're going to go next. Exodus chapter 12. Because remember now I said they're going to come out with great substance, right? And we just kind of paralleling and showing you exactly what it was talking about when the Israelites came out of captivity the first time. All right. So it says this is when the Lord get ready to deliver them. The last plague has hit them, and now these Africans or Egyptians, Hamites want Israel to get on up out of there, right? Because the Lord done, brought that pain. He done brought that death now. So it's like, okay, we done got, the Hamites done got beat into submission now. So they willing to, get them on up out of there now. They willing to let them go now, right? So Exodus 12:35 says, "And the children of Israel did according to the word of Moses, and they borrowed of the Egyptians jewels of silver, jewels of gold, and raiment and clothes," right? Because remember, he said they're gonna come out with great substance. Because I heard somebody saying, "Well, see, this ain't happened yet. This is talking about us, and we come out, but this happened already before." See, God don't do nothing different. This time, it's gonna be on a bigger scale, but the 400 years we're talking about, we are already in this, because you got to remember the time of the Amorites is referring to the time of Ham's son. It's not talking about the time of the Gentiles, which we're going to look at. All right, so now, and as a matter of fact, the Lord going to almost give you the same exact property. The same exact prophecy, same exact prophecy as he did Abraham. But the only difference is he's not going to put a number on it, right? But he's going to almost give you the same exact prophecy when we get to Luke. It says, "And the Lord gave the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians, so that they lent unto them such things as they required, and they spoiled the Egyptians." That's how they came out with great substance, right? That's what it was talking about. Now let's go to Galatians chapter 3. Like I told you, this ain't going to be that long. It's a real simple class, but people make it hard to understand because they want next year to be the year that we're actually free. Now, keep in mind, we are definitely close to getting delivered from our captivity. But the point is, next year is not the year. Okay? Next year is not the year. I hope they got my phone. Come in. I got it? Yes, there's no headphones. It's not headphones? Is it in my pants right there? God is good, y'all. Are they in there? Oh, here they go right here. I'm old, y'all. I told you I thought my headphones at the gym. They sitting on the table. Thank you, honey. I appreciate you going to get that for me. Would you forgive me for being a butthole? Huh? Sister Malia said she'll forgive me, y'all. Thank you, Jordan, for going in there. Yes, I am. I am live. All right, so thank you, man. I appreciate that. I'm sorry. I was a little stressed out. Could you please turn that track on for me? It's on? Okay, thank you. All right, so now let's go to Galatians chapter 3, and let's see something here. Galatians chapter 3, And we're going to pick this up at, I just want to show you a particular number here for a reason. All right, so Galatians 3, we're going to look at verse 17. And it says, "In this I say that the covenant that was confirmed before of God and Christ," because between Abraham and Jesus, the covenant was made, which a lot of people don't know. Jesus was in the Old Testament. And it was Jesus who Abraham was talking to. All right. So it's saying, "This I say, that the covenant that was confirmed before of God and Christ," right? Because the covenant was already confirmed. You know, Abraham did his part. When Jesus came and died, he confirmed the covenant. You know, he got cut off in the midst of the week, but his death is what sealed the deal, in other words. All right. It went on and made that agreement or that promise to Abraham. It went on and solidified it once Jesus died. So he's saying, "This I say, that the covenant that was confirmed before of God in Christ, the law, which was 430 years after, cannot disannul that it should make the promise in none effect." So why is it saying the law, which was 430 years after? Because, hey, after 430 years after this, after Abraham, you notice what's going on here, because another place in Hebrews tell you that in order for this covenant to happen, it has to be the death of a testator. In Hebrews chapter 9. So Abraham is dead. Jesus comes solidified with his death. But the point is, the law during the time of Moses' time, once they came out of Egypt, he says what the law, which is 430 years after, cannot disannul. In other words, it can't break or do away with the covenant that was given Abraham. Even though a law came afterwards, regardless of whether you keep it or not, whether man keeps it, it don't matter. It does not do away with the covenant that the Lord made with Abraham. That's what he's saying here, right? But it's making reference to this law that came 430 years after. So why is it saying 430 years after? Because go to Exodus chapter, let's see here, chapter 1. Exodus chapter 1. And let's see something. Exodus chapter 1. I'm going to pick this up at verse 1. It said, "Now these are the names of the children of Israel, which came into Egypt. Every man in his household came with Jacob." Now, this is what took place now. Remember, Joseph, he was governor over Egypt. Famine took place in the land. He went and got his father, brought them into the land, right? They came down into Egypt, right? So this is what this is referring to. It says, "These are the names of the children of Israel, which came into Egypt. Every man in his household came with Jacob." And you know what Jacob had, right? He had the 12 tribes of Israel. So they came down into Egypt, and for a while they were doing pretty good. All right, so it's going to give you the list of the 12 tribes: Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, Benjamin, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, and Asher, right? And all the souls that came out of the loins of Jacob were 70 souls. For Joseph was in Egypt already, right? So it didn't count those one that came down with Jacob because Joseph was already there. I mean, it didn't count Joseph as a part of those ones that came down with Jacob because he was already there. He was governor over Egypt. Then it says in verse 7, "And the children of Israel were fruitful and increased abundantly and multiplied and waxed exceeding mighty, and the land was filled with them. Now there rose up a new king over Egypt, which knew not Joseph." So up until this time now, you know, we're going to say this is where this 30 years more than likely covers. Because remember, it said 430 years after. So we're not talking about them being in slavery 430 years. They were in Egypt for a time where they was chilling. You know, they was doing pretty good. They had it going on. Wasn't nobody really bothering them until a new pharaoh came up, or a new king came up, and the other generation of Jacob's children died off. And once they died off, they did have some children that went on and came up. And that's why it says, "And the children of Israel were fruitful and increased abundantly and multiplied and waxed exceeding mighty, and the land was filled with them." Talking about in Egypt, right? Now pay attention to verse 8. It says, "Now there rose up a new king over Egypt, which knew not Joseph. And he said unto his people, Behold, the people of the children of Israel are more and mightier than we. Come on, let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply, and it come to pass that when there fall out any war, they join also unto our enemies and fight against us, and so get them up out of the land. Therefore," and now based on how this king felt, you know, being threatened by the fruitfulness of Israel, he came up with a plan to go ahead and start taking them out. You know, you see that going on today. We've been consistently chased by the sword, and whatever they do, it still won't take Jacob out, because the Lord has a covenant that he made with our father. That's why he tell you Malachi 3:6, "I the Lord, I change not, therefore ye sons of Jacob are not consumed." So regardless of what they're doing, the Lord is not going to allow us to be taken out. But if you pay attention, you'll see that this mindset has been going on for a long time, not just with the white man. Hey, the black man didn't like us either. So he said, "Therefore did they set over them taskmasters to afflict them with their burdens." So now they're in Egypt doing good. Now they're getting ready to go into captivity. That's why it's saying here, "Therefore did they set over them taskmasters to afflict them with their burdens." But they didn't go off into another country somewhere. They just stayed in the land they were in, and they went into bondage for 400 years. But the other 30 years, hey, they was doing pretty good. They was, wasn't nobody bothering them until this new Pharaoh came up who knew not Joseph. So it says they set over them taskmasters to afflict them with their burdens, and they built for Pharaoh treasure cities, Pithom and Ramses, right? But the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew, and they were grieved because of the children of Israel. And the Egyptians made the children of Israel to serve with rigor. And I just want you to see something in verse 11. We built Pithom and Ramses and all those treasure cities, those pyramids and all that type of stuff. The slaves built that stuff. And it just makes sense if you pay attention to how I remember back in the day when I was a little kid, man. My father, he was very, very talented when it came to pouring cement and slabs and stuff like that. And he took pride in that. He still does some of it today. But it was like it was something natural. Everybody would call my daddy to actually, do cements and pour driveways and stuff like that. And he ended up, his business actually got pretty prosperous. You know what I'm saying? Because of that. So he was able to, put up and live pretty good off of it. But the point is, it was like this was something that was in his blood, I should say. You know what I'm saying? But this goes back to our fathers. So I remember back with my daddy, back in the day, when they first started, when the housing boom first took place, there was a housing boom that really started around the 80s. Because I remember my uncle, he went and got a big house. Then, other family members, then we finally got a real big house and stuff like that. But we had one contractor. There was a white guy, I can't remember what his name was, but he was a contractor for the whole family. He was the one that was responsible for like putting up the plywood and the 2x4s and stuff like that. And, but they would have the black guys that would come in and actually lay the bricks and pour the slabs and stuff like that. I remember this. I remember this guy named Greg that was a good friend of my father. He would always provide him with a lot of work, different contracts and stuff like that, different jobs. He would be doing, the building, and my father would come in and actually do laying the slabs and the cement and stuff like that. And this is what it's saying in 14, that they made their lives bitter with hard bondage in mortar and in brick. So, I didn't know this when I was coming up as a kid, but when I started seeing this stuff, it just makes sense it makes sense to me now to see how, these brothers were so talented doing this stuff. That's why when you really look at it, ain't nobody build America. The Mexicans didn't build America. The Negroes built America. Like, seriously, I can say I saw a part of that. I wasn't here 500 years ago, but even back in the 70s and 80s, as a little kid, I saw this. My father was going up to Baltimore, and they was building bridges in Baltimore. My uncle called them up there. They were building bridges up there. You know what I'm saying? So, when they make that phrase, "Make America Great Again," I can kind of understand what it means, because that's when the slave had some work. Now the slave ain't got no work. So, hey, make America great again. You know what that's going to do? That's going to put these slaves back to work. But that's neither here nor there. The point is that, we have always been talented in these particular areas right here. It says they made their lives bitter with hard bondage in mortar and in brick and in all manner of service in the field. All this service wherein they made them serve was with rigor. So in other words, it was hard bondage. Then it says, and the king of Egypt spake to the Hebrew midwives, of which the name of the one was Shipra, and the name of the other Pur. These some crazy names. And he said, when you do the office of a midwife to the Hebrew women, and see them upon the stools, if it be a son, then you shall kill him. But if it be a daughter, then she shall live. The point is, this is when they went into bondage. All right. When this new Pharaoh came up, they went into bondage. They went into captivity for 400 years, and the Lord came and delivered them out. All right. So now let's go look at something. Let's go look at something. Remember now, he said they're gonna come back here. They're gonna come back, and the place they're going back to where Abraham was, he was over in that particular land, the promised land. And that's what they did. When they came out of captivity, that's where they ended up going back to. They stood in the wilderness for a while, then they went into the promised land. Exodus 14 to verse 12. It's the Israelites, they upset. They nervous and scared because they're at the Red Sea now. So they kind of, panicking. So in verse 12, Exodus 14 and 12, it says, is not this the word what we did tell thee in Egypt, saying, let us alone, that we may serve the Egyptians, for it had been better for us to serve the Egyptians than that we should die in the wilderness. And Moses said unto the people, fear ye not, stand still, and see the salvation of the Lord, which he will show to you today. For the Egyptians whom ye have seen today, you shall see them no more again forever. The Lord shall fight for you, and you shall hold your peace. Now, the reason I wanted to bring you here is because this is the climax of the Lord delivering them out of Egypt. Once he killed off these these Egyptians in the Red Sea, it was over with. Now the Lord has delivered them and brought them out of Egypt. So now let's go into Exodus chapter 19. Exodus chapter 19. Exodus 19. And we're going to pick this up at verse 6. It's over with now. He done got them out of captivity now. All right. He says in verse 6, I'm going to start at verse 3. It said, and Moses went up to God, and the Lord called him out of the mountain, saying, thus shalt thou say to the house of Jacob, and tell the children of Israel, you have seen what I did unto the Egyptians, and how I bare you on eagle's wings, and brought you unto myself. Now therefore, if you will obey my voice indeed, and keep my covenant, then you shall be a peculiar treasure unto me above all people, for all the earth is mine. So at this point, notice what he's saying. You've seen what I did unto the Egyptians, and how I bear you on eagle's wing, because he done delivered them. He done killed off the Egyptians and brought them out of captivity. This is when he took them down. And that's why before you even get to what took place in the end of Deuteronomy 28, Deuteronomy chapter 7 is telling you before they even walk into the land, that the Lord is going to give them, the land of the Canaanites, the Amorites and stuff like that, before he give that to them, notice what he going to do. He said, I'm going to take them down. So go into Deuteronomy chapter 7. Because this is where they get ready to go to now. They done came out of the captivity. Now they get ready to go into the land. Deuteronomy 7 and verse 1. It says, when the Lord thy God shall bring thee into the land. Now this is in the wilderness at this point. They got to get into the land. But remember, they see once the time of the Amorites is full, now the Lord is getting ready to come on. It's over with now. So the Lord we finna go through this process of the Lord taking them down. Like we almost at the end of the Gentile rule, we're getting ready to hit this process of the Lord taking them down. And essentially, when it's all said and done, when it's over with, guess what? Israel gonna be back at home. But we still got to go to the wilderness. But hey, the Gentiles still gonna be taken down, just like with Egypt here. The Lord took Egypt down, and we still had to finish, a few things before we walked into the land. So he done took down the pharaohs, done took down Egypt, right? But they still got to walk into the land. And now they're in the wilderness before they actually do that. So it says in verse 1, when the Lord thy God shall bring thee into the land, whither thou go to possess it, and have cast out many nations before thee, the Hittites and the Girgashites and the Amorites and the Canaanites and the Perizzites and the Hivites and the Jebusites, 7 nations greater and mightier than thou. When the Lord thy God shall deliver them before thee, thou shalt smite them and utterly destroy them. Thou shalt make no covenant with them, nor shall mercy unto them. All right, and then he's gonna tell you why. But the point is that he's gonna take them down, and it ain't gonna just be the Amorites. But at this point, the time of the Amorites is full, and then in addition to that, hey, the Lord gonna take out other nations that belong to Ham, because their rulership is coming to an end. All right, and that's exactly what happened. We walked into the promised land during the time of Joshua. That's when we went into the promised land. Okay, let's go to Joshua right quick. Let's go see that. me 1 second here. Give me 1 second. We gotta show, we just want to show exactly when they went in, who was involved at the time, who's gonna be involved in our time. But once you see that this has already happened, you know next year can't be the year. Like I say, I know most of us want it to be the year, most Israel, because we ready, we ready to come out of this stuff we in. And it's getting closer, but this ain't it right here though. Next year wouldn't be the actual year that it's gonna take place. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, we got some, we definitely are getting closer. That's one thing you can know. I mean, one thing you can look forward to that is getting closer. We're almost out of this, but we don't have to try to force it to be. You know what I'm saying? It's not gonna be next year. Okay, yeah, I can't find what I'm looking for right now. And I heard so many different I heard so many I heard so many different, train of thoughts on this particular matter that is crazy, man. I mean, one guy even said that the 400 years, and we talking about a Hebrew teacher, said that the 400 years may not, based on the Septuagint, to whatever you call that crap, based on that particular history or whatever research they did, that the Israelites weren't in captivity for 400 years the first time. They was in captivity for actually 215 years. I say, Lord have mercy. Because what he was doing was he was trying to tie it to our time. He's trying to tie it to now. And then on top of that, he also said that, he was trying to say, the Lord, sometimes he'll say one thing and it'll mean something else. As far as 400 years in Egypt, it could also be talking about the time over here in America. Well, first off, what we got to understand is that we didn't just come to America. Like I showed you the other night with the Haitians and the Jamaicans, we weren't just scattered into America. We went into different places. You know what I'm saying? We went to Jamaica, Haiti, Brazil, the Caribbeans. You know what I'm saying? We're all over the place. America was just one of the stops, but they even, and some history even lets you know that most of the slaves didn't even come to America. It's other places that they got scattered. I think it may be in the Caribbean, it might be South America, maybe be Brazil. But the point is that it wasn't just specific to America, and that's what most people believe, that it's gonna be America that we get to just getting delivered out of, but we got scattered everywhere. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't just in 1619. If when we most trains of thought say it was here. So, we got here in 1619. May have been a little early. You know what I'm saying? May have been just a little bit later. But the point is, that's not the prophecy, and it wasn't just us. It was other people that were involved. So go to Luke chapter 21 right quick. Luke chapter 21. Luke 21, and we're gonna look at verse 24. And this is the Lord is mainly letting them know about Israel getting ready to go into captivity, right? And it's almost gonna be the same statement that Jesus himself made to Abraham. Cause see, that was Jesus back in the Old Testament. That was Jesus back in the Old Testament talking to Abraham. Now he's in the flesh, and the disciples are asking him about the captivity, or how long it's gonna be, regarding the time of this trouble that we're going to go through. When is this temple going to be destroyed? What's going to be the sign of the Lord's second coming and the end of the world? But pay attention to what the Lord is going to say in Luke chapter 21 and verse 24. He says, and they shall fall by the edge of the sword and shall be led away captive into all nations. Talking about the Israelites, right? And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled, right? Now, Jesus didn't put a number on it, though, in this particular case. He put a number on it with Abraham, right? He gave them a number 400 years, which has already happened. When you get to the New Testament, we're not talking about the Amorites no more. That's why I told you it's very important for you to pay attention to the wording in those scriptures. He said they're going to be in captivity, you know what I'm saying? Because, and when he come get them out, in other words, they're going to sit there in captivity because the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full, right? So that, hey, they're gonna be in captivity. That was talking about that particular time because that's when the Egyptians or Hamites, they were in power. So now we're looking thousands of years down the line, and listen, hey, Jesus is now giving another prophecy about somebody still being in captivity, going into captivity, right? You're falling by the edge of the sword. Because at this point, they already in the land. They're not in a strange land. You know, Deuteronomy 28 is going to come to pass because right before that, it says in verse 22, for these be the days of vengeance that all things which are written may be fulfilled. So you go back to Deuteronomy 28, all them curses that the Lord laid out there, hey, they get ready to start happening. But they already in the land, right? So it says, but woe unto them in verse 24, and they shall fall by the edge of the sword and shall be led away captive. So they coming back out of the land, going into captivity this time, right? All over the world, which is spoken of in Deuteronomy 28:6. See, the captivity that they went in during the Hamites' time, that was just in that particular area. That's why he was going to deal with that nation. You understand? That's why he say he's going to deal with that nation or those particular people. This time when he get back, hey, he's dealing with the Gentiles and the nations. He going to deal with the whole world. You understand? But right here, he's telling you, and they're going to fall by the edge of the sword and shall be led away captive into all nations, and Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled. So we got some other people that got to fulfill some time. Now let's go to Daniel chapter 8 right quick, because you can't just, if we stop right there, you know, it wouldn't be enough to clear up it wouldn't be enough to match up with how the Lord compared the time of the Amorites being fulfilled or being full, right? But I'm going to show you something in Daniel, and it's almost the exact wording, but we're still talking about the Gentiles. Daniel chapter 8, and we're going to pick this up at verse 19. It says, and he said, behold, I will make thee know what shall be in the last end of the indignation. For at the time appointed, the end shall be. So this is what Daniel was asking about, the dream that he saw regarding the 2300 days, the different vision that he's seen. The Lord came and showed him different nations that were involved. So now he's getting ready to break it down to him. But he told him, he said, behold, Daniel 8 and 19, that's what we're reading at. He said, behold, I will make thee know what shall be in the last end of the indignation, for at the time appointed, the end shall be. So now we're taking it all the way down to our time, the end of the world, which is what's upon us now. He said, the ram which thou saw having two horns. You go back and read this chapter on your own. But what we're doing, we're looking at the interpretation of what he saw. He said, the ram which thou saw having two horns are the kings of Media and Persia. All right. So that would be the Medo-Persian Empire, the ram, Russia and Iran. Then he said, and the rough goat is the king of Greece. So that would be the king of Greece or Alexander the Great. And the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king, because King Alexander was the first king over Greece. And then in verse 22, he said, now that being broken, whereas four stood up for it, because when that horn fell, or when Alexander the Great fell, you had four other horns come up in his stead, or four other kings. In this particular case right here, these horns represent kings. So it said, now that being broken, whereas four stood up for it, four kingdoms shall stand up out of that nation, but not in his power. So when Alexander the Great died off, you had four other kings come up, which was four generals. And these four generals came up and they ruled that particular area, ruled Greece, and then they went on to grab some more land down in Egypt and stuff like that, but they still didn't rule in the magnitude of Alexander the Great. That's why it said four kingdoms shall stand up out of that nation, but not in his power. But pay attention though. Because what we're doing is we're looking at succession. We're looking at, the Gentile dynasty picking in this chapter here. It picks up during the time of the Medo-Persian Empire, because Daniel is still in captivity, but he's up under King Belshazzar now. Nebuchadnezzar has died. Belshazzar came up, which is his grandson. So he had another dream, and this dream that he's having, it's about the other three kingdoms that are getting ready to come up, but they're all a part of the Babylonian dynasty from beginning all the way to the end. So in verse 9, it says, and out of one of them came forth, I'm sorry, how did we get up to verse 9? I don't know where we at. We're down in verse 23. It said, in the latter time of their kingdom, when the transgressors are come to the full. Didn't we see that during the time of the Amorites? The Amorites, they was going to be in power until the Lord took them down. That's why he said, listen, the Israelites, they're going to be led away. They're going to be in captivity. When he's talking to Abraham, know of a surety that thy seed going to go and, be in bondage, in other words, they're going to be in captivity in a strange land for 400 years, right? And they ain't going to come back because the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full. Okay? So once again, we way down in Daniel's time, and he's letting them know something prophetic about what's going concerning something that's going to take place in the future. But guess what? We got some iniquity that has to come to the full once again. And this covers us, sisters and brothers. That's why he's saying the latter time of their kingdom, talking about the Babylonian dynasty. Once we get to the end of their kingdom, he said, when the transgressors, you know what transgression means? That means that those are sinners. Sin, transgressing what? When you breaking the law. When it has reached its maximum, when it has come to the full, he said, a king of fierce countenance and understanding dark sentences shall stand up. But this is referring to us now. Then he says, and in his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power. And he shall destroy wonderfully and shall prosper in practice and shall destroy the mighty and holy people. Because this guy that's going to stand up understanding dark sentences, in other words, he going to understand the word of God. And he going to stand up as king of the world. It says his power going to be mighty, but not by his own power, because he's going to get his power from Satan. And he shall destroy wonderfully and shall prosper and practice and shall destroy the mighty and holy people. That's Israel, sisters and brothers. And he said, and through his policy, also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand, and he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many. He shall also stand up against the prince of princes, but he shall be broken without hand. This is referring to when Jesus get back. That's the prince of princes. But this particular individual is going to be around once the time of the transgressors are come to the full. But Jesus even broke it down and told you in Luke 21, he said what? Until the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled. So in other words, when the Gentiles reach its full maximum of sinning, it's over with, just like it was in the book of Exodus. When the Amorites, when they sin got to the full, the Lord came and took them down. It was over with. And that's the same thing that's going to happen with us. We at the end, and the transgressions of the Gentiles, or the time of the Gentiles, it's almost over. But it's been way past 400 years. Let's go to Matthew chapter 1. This is going to be the last place. Matthew chapter 1. Matthew chapter 1. Let's look at something. We're going to look at these generations. Check this out. Matthew chapter 1. Let's look at the generation as it walks down into Jesus, right? It said in Matthew 1 and verse 16, it says, and Jacob begot Joseph, the husband of Mary, of whom was born Jesus. I'm going to come up some. It's going to give you the lineage of Jesus. Well, it's going to take you down to Mary. It's going to take you down to Joseph. In this particular, it's going to take you down to Joseph. But when they get to Jesus, it's going to switch. Because Jesus, he going to come about a different type of way. He wasn't begotten like everybody before them in this chapter was. He's coming a totally different way. So it says, and you can shut that door. You come on in and shut it. It says in Eli, how you say that? Eli begot Eleazar, and Eleazar begot Mathan, and Mathan, or Mathan begot Jacob, and Jacob begot Joseph, the husband of Mary, of whom was born Jesus, who is called Christ. Right. So pay attention to what it says. It says, so all the generations from Abraham to David are 14 generations. Right. So that's about 1,400 years, because the generation is considered to be 100 years. Right. So we got 1,400 years right there. Then it says, and from David unto the carrying away into Babylon are 14 generations, right? So from the time from Abraham to David, that's 14 generations right there. And then from David unto the carrying away into Babylon, that's 14 generations. That's 1,400 years of captivity right there. So how are we going to skip over that 400 years that was included? Listen, 1,400 years of captivity. You got 400 year prophecies in there alone. Somehow another one, because 400, 800, 1,200. Then plus you got 200 more left over, which make 1,400. But somehow another, when we get down to America, we just say that this 400 years covers us. It says from David unto the carrying away into Babylon, when Nebuchadnezzar came up and took us out in Jeremiah 25. Go read that on your own. That's 14 generations. That's 1,400 years. Then it says, and from the carrying away into Babylon unto Christ are 14 generations. We ain't came back yet. That's a total of 2,800 years of being in captivity. So how is it that we skip all the way down to 1619, and then say 400 years later, 2019, we coming out of captivity? That wasn't talking about this, sisters and brothers. Our captivity now and being set free is going to be based on when the transgressors have come to the full. This man going to stand up, and he's going to fight against the prince of princes. The Lord going to destroy him without hand. And it's also in Luke chapter 21, where he says that Israel going to be led away captive into all nations, and Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled. And once that time is fulfilled, the Lord is coming back, and this is when we're going to be delivered out of our captivity. So like I told you, this is a short class, real simple. Have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Other than that, I hope everybody, was able to get something from it. And I say peace in Jesus' name.